Europe, USA, Canada, Switzerland, and the rest of the world, Supersonic's money transfer has got you covered. With the largest payout network in the Gambia, you can now receive your monies anywhere you are, from Kartong to Koina, with less hassle. Yes! You can receive monies from your family and friends in UK, Europe, USA, Canada, Switzerland, and the rest of the world with our safe, secure, fast, and convenient service that offers you the largest selection of payout locations in the Gambia. Supersonic's money transfer. We are currently in 34 African countries and counting, giving you quality money remittance services that are second to none. Visit the Google Play Store or the Apple Store today to download the Supersonic's money transfer app and enjoy excellent money transfer services only with Supersonics.
fu muy fanaan ak kuy wut ku ko wétali xanaa delloo buntu gi war la naa boole yaa Fatus Guest House tijjil na leen buntu bi ñu leen fa am ak ñaari cabinet salle yu yaña
amal leen li nga xamantene mooy cabinet ak salle ñu ngi leen amal AC ak fan
salle bi nag lépp li ngeen soxla am na fa sofa yu nooy ñoo fa nekk TV bank fa cabinet boo dugga lal yu nooy leen fa amal nañ leen fa AC ak li nga xam ne moom mooy fan toilet yu set wicc amal nañ leen fa kitchen microwave fridge and room bu baax dama ne teranga day mut moo taxit yaa Fatus Guest House amal leen extra kitchen lépp lu ngeen bëgg a togg mun ngeen ko toggee si gas cooker bii nii
kuy xalam di si jaayu nag barke bi yaay borom amal ne li nga xamantene mooy ndox ak courant 24/7 bu leen tiit bu leen ragal bu leen xof ndax amal ne li di CCTV caméra
set si leen ñu si Farafenni gannaaw garage base bi Kawur highway
very clean every day am na cleaning service ratio bi amul fenn
yaa Fatus Guest House teranga aduna bët kon nag seet si leen ñu
Physiotherapy and Rehabilitation Clinic is the first of its kind in the Gambia. We have inpatient service and outpatient services. Penmore admits patients and they have intensive rehabilitations. That means treatment 3 times a day for 5 days, from Mondays to Friday, and on Fridays they go to their families to spend time with them to have family. Outpatients come on regular appointments, probably 2 or 3 times in a week for treatment. We treat patients with arthritis, with back pain, stroke patients, fractures or after fracture operation, paralysis of all types, and we do treat both young and old patients. Penmore Physiotherapy gives quality physiotherapy treatments to Gambians because we are qualified physios from different parts of the world.
In one of the most transparent manners, which was, as the chairman mentioned, was acclaimed the world over, both nationally and internationally. So, as he mentioned, this momentum will be maintained come the National Assembly election. And next, I would like to invite the Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Samuel Njai, who would
Communication and Public Affairs. Good morning, Honorable Chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Commission of Police, our most esteemed stakeholders, that is the political parties, civil society, and the media, as well as our development partners, UNDP, and to my colleagues, IEC staff present here. Good morning once again. My task this morning is to take you through the plan of action for the April 9, 2022 National Assembly elections. But before I do that, like the chairman rightly said, that our elections were rated as the most democratic, free, fair, and transparent election, not only the one we have, this one we have conducted, but across Africa. Because if you look at the ratings now, we are, after Cape Verde and Botswana, we are number 3. Having said that, we cannot go into the National Assembly elections without closing the presidential election. Please be informed that the presidential election has been closed, and now we are going into the National Assembly. This is why we want to further maintain our engagement with this, with you as the stakeholders, to keep you along the way, so that at the end of the day, we will do it together as we did in the December polls. First, I want to ask whether you have what is called the schedule of activities given to you. I will take you through so that that's my briefing anyway, so that you will leave this place with full information of what we are going to do, how we are going to do it, and when we are going to do it, where we are going to do it. Because sometimes we have realized that most of the stakeholders don't know what is happening, even though they will want to participate, and their participation would have been very helpful. This is why we decided to come this time this way to tell you at what we are going to do at any particular time in the run-up to the National Assembly elections. To start with, as you can see in your number 1, there is a meeting with political parties and other stakeholders monthly. We will be continuing to have this kind of meeting on monthly basis with the political parties, civil society, and media practitioners to keep you updated of the electoral process, more so on the electoral activity being conducted, that is the National Assembly elections. This will avail you the opportunity to ask relevant questions and to contribute immensely in terms of better carrying the activity. So our next meeting should be in February. So please, once you are invited, please come. Please come. Aside of these things, you are also urged to call on us anytime if you have anything that needs clarification, either from the political parties, civil society, or the media. Number 2, we said Gazette of Election Notice, returning officers, collation centers, and polling centers. Gazette is the putting in the public, in the notice, putting the elections notice in the Gazette to make it formal and legal to conduct the elections. This has been done, and in this Gazette, we have identified 7 returning officers, because this election is National Assembly election. It's not a presidential election. It's a constituency-based election, and the constituencies are located in the administrative area, and each administrative area has a returning officer. So the chairman this time is not the returning officers, but senior officials of the commission are going to be the returning officers in the 7 administrative areas. For the Banjul administrative area, we have gazetted Mr. Suleiman Juf as the returning officer. For Kanifim administrative area, we gazetted Mr. Joseph Koli as the returning officer. For the Birkama administrative area, we gazetted Anthony Robert Seka as the returning officer. For the Kerawan administrative area, we gazetted Mr. Esa Balde as the returning officer. For the Mansa Konko administrative area, we gazetted Mr. Lamin J. Jadama as the returning officer. Janjambure administrative area, we gazette Amadou Tal as the returning officer. And for Basse administrative area, we have Mr. Lamin Cham as the returning officer. These returning officers are legally and logistically in charge of the entire election in their administrative areas. All your complaints, queries, anything should be directed to them, because they have been gazetted as the people who should act on this election. We at the head office, we are there to give them support and advice. And this time, like I said, it's a constituency-based election, and the constituencies are in the administrative area. Everything is taking place at the regional offices, not at the IEC headquarters. For the collation centers, that is where the collation of polling station results will take place, would be the same as gazetted in the presidential elections. Each administrative area will have a collation center, and they've been identified already. And in the collation center, we'll identify rooms equivalent to the number of constituencies, so that each room will receive the polling station results from the constituencies in the administrative area. So for further information, you can check with the regional officers or returning officers in the region. Also, the polling station and the counting polling stations are not going to change. All the polling stations remain the same as in the presidential election. And immediately after the close of poll, they'll turn into counting centers, because counting on the spot is going to be maintained. Moving on, the IEC also want to be very transparent by telling you that we have also put an advertisement for election staff in the media calling for Gambians, qualified Gambians, to apply for the post of assistant returning officers, presiding officers, assistant presiding officers, polling officers, and polling assistants. This advertisement is running and it will terminate on the 30th. So any government who is interested and does not submit his or her application within this period will not be considered for recruitment. And even if you are submitted for recruitment, you will be subjected to interview and screening by the IAC officials at the regions. Okay, moving on number 4. The IAC wishes to inform you that nomination papers will be available from the 4th of February. If you have your candidates, please let them go to the regional offices of the constituency in which they want to contest to collect these nomination papers. Do not go to the head office. If you have a constituency, if you want to contest in a constituency in Banjul, go to the Banjul regional office. If you want to contest in a constituency in Basse administrative area, go to our Basse regional office. Please don't come to Kanifim or go to Bairkama or head office. So everything is happening at the regional offices. By the 4th of February, these forms will be there and will be available for collections by aspiring candidates. And we are encouraging you, please, when you go to collect these forms, take time and ask the regional officers to take you through how to fill it, what is required, so that at the end of the day, when you come for submission at nomination, you will not have any issue. We encourage you to take time and ask them what is required. We want to see everyone who wants to contest have the opportunity to contest without having one or two things missing. And you have time, so when you go there, take time and ask them how do you feel, how does one fill the form, what is the requirements, and all the other things. Okay, but on 1st February 2022, we will open invitation for election observation missions. Anybody, any organization, international, local, media, civil society who is interested in covering the elections will have to apply for accreditation. Otherwise, your presence or your accompaniment with us will stop at our monthly meeting. We will not be allowed in our regional offices to cover our nomination procedures and the rest of the election processes. So for the media, civil society, these applications should be sent to the head office. We will accredit at the head office, but the work is taking place at the regions. The regional offices will not allow you if you are not accredited. We are reminding you that by the 1st, if you want to participate in the election as media practitioner, as civil society, as an observer, please apply for accreditation. The accreditation itself, once you have applied, we will take about a month to process your application. By the 1st of March, no other application will be accepted and the certification will be issued to those who are qualified or who has been approved to observe the elections. We do not want any issue. We wait until the last minute or a day after we started issuing the accreditation, you start applying. That is not too good. It's an office and we are working on a program, and this is a constituency elections. We don't want you to be jumping in our offices, asking for space when you are not being accredited. You have the opportunity, please do so and do on time. Again, we have in our plan that before the nomination, certainly before the nomination, we will train political party representatives and the police on the process of the nomination, as well as the campaign and the voting of the National Assembly 2022. So please, political parties, when you are invited, please send people who will represent, who will attend for you, and who will also go back to your parties to train your party agents who will be at the polling station. We have done it in the presidential election, but the essence of this training is to take you through the voting process, what is expected of the campaign, of the nomination, in general, the do's and the don'ts of the election, so that your representative will filter down and trickle down this information to your party members and candidates. Please, when you are sending, send people who can go and deliver the story. We are appealing. Also, there will be a training for the civil society and the media. Yes, these are key partners. It is not only enough we meet here, but we want to have a day with you to tell you what you can do and what you cannot do, and what you must not do. We have issues. We have learned a lot in the presidential election, especially with some media houses. We don't want a replica of that coming up. And we don't want on the eve or on the day of election, your accreditation is cancelled or revoked. Please, we are all gentlemen. Let's conform to the rules. When they said no cooling off day, don't broadcast campaign rally. It's not good for the electoral process. At the end of the day, the electoral process is Gambia, not the chairman or any other person or even the IEC. So media house should not taint the whole electoral process by broadcasting on a non-cooling off day. Moving on, nomination of candidate itself will be from the 5th to the 3rd of March, 13th of March 2022. During this period, we expect people who collect a nomination form to come in person and submit to the returning officers at the regional offices for their nomination to be considered. Very important period. This time, the nomination of candidate will be accepted after the verification of list of support. We are advising all candidates and through their parties here present that when they collect these forms and they feel it, let them not wait until on election day to come and bring it. Until on nomination day to come and bring it. Let them bring it before the nomination day for vetting. If they collect these forms and they feel it, let them not wait until nomination day to bring it. You may not know that you may be missing 1 or 2 things or some of the digits are missing. But if you bring it to us, we check before nomination day, it will be better. We have had some experiences during the presidential election. We don't want those things to come up again. It's an opportunity for you to go and fill their for the candidates to fill their forms correctly and bring it to the office before nomination. If the office realize anything which is not normal or which is not correct, we will ask you to put it right so that on nomination day you will not have that issue of being rejected or being asked to go and bring 1 or 2 or 3 missing issues. So please, on this nomination, we are appealing, and also we will also come up with a guide, a schedule of receipt of nomination. Of course, we have 18 registered political parties, and we have almost 9 days nomination period. We will come up with this schedule and we'll publish it, and the parties will be communicated during these days, which party is coming when, for the entire period. So this will come in due course. But the most important thing is tell your candidates when they start doing their nomination forms, let them go back to the regional office for vetting so that the regional office can advise them. We don't want to disqualify or reject any candidate for not meeting 1 or 2 criteria as a result of technicality. So please.
I will tell them that let them go to those who are sponsoring them physically, not copying their names from the voter register.
Yes, very important. We have seen in the past that candidates present their list of supporters who signed for them, and what we have realized is some of them will just sit maybe behind a corner and they have our register and they start writing names, signing without contacting those names or those people. We have seen impersonations. We have seen wrong signatures. We have seen inadequate numbers. We have seen wrong numbers, wrong digits. In fact, if you look at the 15 rejections of the presidential election, most of them were rejected based on the list of support. We don't want that. That's not our wish. So please, if you are tell your candidates if they are looking for supporters, this time is 300. And for election, if you ask for 300, don't bring exactly 300. If you have if you ask for 300, if you have 1,000, bring 1,000. We don't want that pull and push between you are our masters per se, because with our political parties and candidates, no IEC. But we also have to go strictly by the law. So we don't want to see any rejection. The law says bring 300 signatories. Make sure go to 300 people or more. They will sign for you. You get the right voters card number. Let them sign or thumbprint, but don't sit in a corner, start thumbprinting or signing. We will come to know. And we are going to do digital verification. Some of us, if you look at the numbers, digits, we will definitely know that this number is wrong because we know how many digits are in our voters card number. Those ones, we don't even subject it to verification because I know if our voters card has 15 digits, it give me numbers that are 7. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. And get the people to sign for you rather than writing their names and putting signatures. Sometimes you write a name that you wouldn't know that you may be writing the name Sambu Jangjai. And in that occupation, it says teacher, when Sambu Jangjai today is the chief electoral officer. We have seen those things. Some people were writing names of senior Gambians who never signed for them. So please, we want this engagement to be fruitful, to achieve something. It is not our intention to reject any candidate in this election, but we will apply the law to the letter. It is why we say, even aside of this monthly meeting, if you have any issue, come to us. We will advise you. Am I making the point? Yes. Moving on, after the nomination, this time we will not have anything called public scrutiny, because the law says people can scrutinize as nomination goes on. So if you have the time to go and scrutinize on during the nomination process, you can. And if you have the time to put in your observation, you can. But after the nomination, we will take time to go through all the documentation. And if there's anything missing, or after the verification of the list of supporters, and we found out that some people, some of the list is not up to the number, we'll give you time to correct accordingly and submit within a short period. So what will follow immediately after the acceptance of nomination is public scrutiny, reconciliation of campaign itineraries. Here too, we are also calling on your candidates to come or to send representatives who can represent their interests. We don't want to come on to have a campaign program concluded only 2 days, 3 days into the campaign. You start changes here and there. It's not too good. Remember, this time we are not dealing with one constituency like the whole Gambia. We are dealing with the various constituencies. And sometimes you want to change immediately the same day. That is always very difficult because when there is any change, you have to communicate to all the other candidates and other stakeholders. It gives us a lot of issues. And when we ask you to wait, you cannot bear that. Please help us do the right thing rightly. And when you are rejected, you feel that you are being, sidelined or there is no level playing field. You know your constituency, you know where to go when. Come there and tell us. We agree in principle and put it and circulate it to the world. But if you send somebody who will just be there and at the end of the day, you say, no, I don't want to be there. We know changes can happen. You may have chosen a place. And in the evening when you are supposed to go there, there is a funeral. We know those things can happen. But every day you keep on changing. We don't want that. We want you to come and sit with your other colleagues, that's the other candidates. You agree on a campaign program at the IAC regional office. Please, when come this time, come yourself or send representative who can represent your interests. Yes, we are also going to supply you during this period the register of voters in soft copy, so that you can print for yourself as a candidate. Your candidates will have the soft copy. And we will also ensure that when you collect these things, you sign for us. And we are putting it on record that we don't send any register on the eve of the election to anybody. And when you are given this soft copy, we don't expect you to come back to us to say, help us print. Because we have observed people, when we give them the soft copy, also they will say, the soft copy is spoiled. They don't know even how to open it. Remember, the register is in thousands of pages. We used to give the hard copies. Now the commission has done away with that, and they are giving soft copies. So it is the responsibility of the candidate to print the register of his constituency on time. If you print and do not give it to your agents up to election day, that is between you and your agents. But IEC will give it to you from the 14th to the 16th of March. So if there is any query that with registers we are not giving, we will give register. Even today, we could have given the register. We don't know the candidates. This is why. Campaign itself is from the 17th to the 7th of April, 17 March to 7th of April. That is when candidates will be out and about in their constituencies canvassing for votes. Again, we call on all Gambians to be very peaceful, law-abiding. Like we always say, election will come and go, and Gambia remains and the people remain. So there is no need or any issue that should warrant violence, that should warrant undesirable attitude and behaviors. We are Gambians, we are noted for being peace and peaceful. So let's continue and, in fact, improve more on that. The last time it was very peaceful. We want to replicate that again. You don't need even the police to be there to be peaceful, because the peace is your interest. So we are appealing to you during the campaign period, remain peaceful, go by your programs, and if you have any issue, get back to the IEC regional office. Our senior officers will be deployed to the regions to take care of issues as they arise. Yes, training of trainers. This may not even interest you, but we are telling you that the ARs, that's the assistant returning officers, who will be in charge of the election at constituency level, will be trained during this period. And they will be trained by us, the IEC officials, and these people, the trainers or the assistant returning officers will in turn train the regional staff. So this is going to be a national training done at head office level in one of the hotels. There will be about 150 of them to be trained by us. They will in turn be dispatched to the regions, and these people will train our regional staff that are being recruited to handle the elections at the regions. Last day of withdrawal, the law has provided for that. If a candidate is putting up his candidature, he has up to the 2nd or up to the 2nd of April to say, I'm no longer interested, I'm withdrawing. But after this period, no more withdrawal. Even if you withdraw, your ballot drum will appear. But if you withdraw before this period, if the candidate is a party candidate, the party will have the opportunity to replace. So political parties get candidates that can go through to the elections. If you get candidates that withdraw, after the withdrawal period, you will not have any candidate again. Regional training, that's the regional training of our polling staff, will be done from the 4th to the 3rd. This will be trained by our trainers who were trained by us at the various administrative areas. And again, we will also have what is called election observer briefing. Usually this is for the civil society, the election observers, the media, and to give you an update on the state of preparedness. Usually it's always 72 hours before elections to give reassurance on the conduct of the elections. The last time it was done here and it was well attended. We hope this time when we call, you come on time, and you can ask all the relevant questions. Those invited should come on time. Deployment of our polling staff. Like I said, we are trying to let you know all that we are going to do, so that when you see our staff start in the region start moving, you definitely know that this is what is happening. Because we have seen in the past, people start calling you. I see people moving with ballot drums. I say, don't you know that 2 days to come is election? And they were calling us if what we are doing was illegal. So on this day, if you see people moving around with ballot drum, it's our people, it's our staff taking their materials to their deployment areas. But if you see this any movement before this period, it's not us, and it can't be us, unless we are deploying some of our materials from the head office to the regions. But in the villages, no. So please, when you see people moving from the Basse to the Woolies or moving from Birkama to the Phonis, it's our staff. So there is no need for you to call us. Or if you see them being assembled in one place, taking their material, there is no need for you to call us and say, look what is happening there. I've seen a lot of ballot drums. I've seen a lot of kit boxes. I've seen a lot of people assembling. If it's fall on this day, it's our activity. And finally, cooling off day. This is a day when we do not expect, when we expect no political party, we don't expect any political party to do any politicking. When we say politicking, we mean going out public in a public place using PA system, canvassing for vote. That should be very clear. But somebody in a private house talking to his family or his friends is not politic. Madam, Chairman is saying that in our meetings, if your telephone rings, you pay. If so charge you, and it's from source. So maybe this is double charges now. Maybe MC will so charge. Yes. Okay, we can understand. We can understand. It's part of life. It's part of life. So cooling off day, we don't expect any candidate to go out and do public politicking. We mean the gathering of people in public place, canvassing for vote using PA system. Because usually on this day, people will call, hey, Samuel, these people are going into this compound. Is that a public place? Are they using PA system? Who are those people? Who knows whether they are relation? So this is the issue. But if you see somebody at the Bantaba using PA system, telling people come out and vote for party A or candidate A or B, that is public. That's what we condemn. But we cannot ask people not to go to their houses or not to assemble in their compounds. The law is very clear. We don't want public procession. We don't want any meetings publicly. That's what the law says. And on the 9th of April itself is election day, voting day, polling day. Polls are going to open at 8 in the morning and close 5 in the evening. And the procedure is the same as the presidential election. You go to vote where you were registered. And when you are going, go with your voter's card. No voter's card, no vote. When you go, follow the queue. When you read the polling desk, they will process you and give you a token. You go inside the polling booth or the polling compartment and cast your vote and leave the polling station, go home. And when you are going, don't go with any candidate's material or party material. And the rest, you follow the media. This day is the day of the media. They will be at all the polling stations to cover for the governments what is happening. There will be your eyes and your mouth and your ears. Am I right, the media? And the observers will also be there as watchdog for you. You don't need to be there because they will be with us from the start to the end to give you an independent opinion of what they have seen. So you have your people, you have the observers, you have the media. There is no need to say, I vote, but I'm not going. I'm waiting for the drum of my candidate. The law has not given you any right to be there. We don't want any problem. Tell you our brothers and sisters, our family members, when they vote, let them leave and go home. So on that note, Chairman, I will hand over back to Mr. Director. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Where to have access into the polling station. However, we had reports from some quarters that some people were denied voting because they didn't come with a mask. I think we came out to refute this. This didn't happen anywhere in any polling station in the Gambia, because we know wearing of masks by the general public is regulation, medical regulation, okay? And voting is somebody's fundamental human right. So I don't think we can exchange the two. So people, the polling staff at the polling station will definitely encourage every voter to come in and vote wearing face mask. But if the person chooses not to wear a face mask, there's nothing they can do to force the person to do so, or there's nothing they can do to deny that person his or her fundamental right. So I think this should be made very clear here. We have the media, we have the political parties, and we have the CSOs, all key partners in the electoral process, that no single voter was ever denied voting because of face mask in the presidential election. And this will be replicated come National Assembly elections. However, we urge all and sundry to encourage people, to just for our common good. Let everybody participate in the election safe, and let them try to respect the protocols, the COVID protocols. Oh, sorry, see, do I have to pay for the? Okay, so we are together, right? Okay, sorry about that. So I think we have to recognize some of these things. We must not trade unfounded information. I think it's not healthy for any process, including the electoral process. And also to say that we also, do I have to pay double? Huh? Okay, sorry about that. Okay. And also, that's also another key important point is the issue of voter education. This he mentioned the schedule, but then it's important to note that along this schedule would be the voter education. It will, continue throughout the process, and of course, in doing so, the commission will engage the general public, the voters, the stakeholders, everybody, to pass on relevant information for the election. And this would be done, on using various medium, the TV, the radio, also advocacy materials, T-shirts, billboards, and all that. And of course, we've been criticized for not being too social, the social media. So I think this time around we'll try to be more active on social media. On that note, Chairman, maybe open the discussions to the floor. And of course, this is supposed to be an interactive session. We can ask questions, we can make comments. And I think we will just, yes, but only, I think, yes, it's a given. We're here for the National Assembly elections, huh? So we expect all questions or comments to be in respect to that elections only. Are you together? Okay, so maybe we can just take 3.
Training to the constituency level. Yes, what I said is the TOT is the training of IEC staff, not your staff. But there's also a training of political parties at the national level. And this training will be done before the nomination. Only political parties, whether they're going to contest or not, I don't know. But we will invite them to train them, and they will go in turn and train their people at a national level or at the regional level. So what struck my mind when you said that, I said, now, instead of the number we are going to invite, maybe we can increase the number so that those we have more people, then they will decentralize and train at the regional level instead of the normal 2 or 3. So maybe at our management level, we will look at this. Instead of each party 2, we may increase it. I am saying we may. Please let me put that on record, because I understand this is a constituency-based election. There is no need in training somebody at the head office here, and you have somebody at Bolibana or whatever, or in all those remote constituencies. So I understand where you come in. That relates to Mr. Baji's question. Yeah. So you also talk about deadline for the submission of forms. Forms will be out on the 4th. But from the 4th up to the end of nomination, the forms will be available. If you want, you can come and collect it on the 13th of March and bring it on the 13th of March. Do you understand what I'm saying? It has opening date, and the closing is linked to the nomination. So by the 4th, in our regional offices, the forms will be there. And we expect you to be coming to submit those forms from the 3rd of March. Is it 3rd or 5th March? Nomination is when? 5th from. Yes, you will collect the forms from the 4th, but by the 5th of March, if you want to contest, you should start submitting it based on the schedule we are going to publish. So in a nutshell, the deadline for the submission would be on the 5th to the 13th. Because you collect the nomination form for you to be nominated, and the nomination ends on the 13th. Agreed? Is that clear now? So you also talk about the forms and their signatures. Yes, there have been a lot of issues on this, and we still appeal. We are not urging, we are not entreating, we are appealing to you. Tell your candidates, let them not try to forge. We are digital. We know certain numbers when you even look at it. people like me, when I look at some of the numbers, I definitely know they are not good. When I even look at the signatures, when you even look at the thumbprint, you see thumbprint like this and later like this, later like this. I mean, do justice to yourself and go to the people, let them sign for you. And I said earlier, if they ask you 300, if you collect more than 1,000, bring it, don't keep it. To take it to another agency to say that I had more than enough, I thought it was not necessary. You collect it for election, give it to the election authorities to consider. You wait until you are rejected, you start going to somewhere and say, I have more than this. So, I mean, let's do away with that. Let's not try to be blaming people unnecessarily. If you have it, bring it. And we are asking you, even if you have it, if you don't have it, try and have it. Am I communicating? So, okay. And when you ask, yes, like the chairman said, if you come to Sambujang, if party A or candidate A come to Sambujang, in fact, this is candidate per se or independent candidate. If Sambujang, a candidate comes to Sambujang, Sambujang sign for that party or that candidate. If another candidate comes to Sambujang, Sambujang should be honest enough to tell you, I have signed for candidate B. Because at the end of the day, when you do the verification, the first to be submitted is what to be considered. This also affected some candidates during the last elections. So you can see the issues. So when you go to collection agencies, ask your people whether they've not signed for any candidate before. And even tell them that even if you have not signed for any candidate before, you sign for me. When anyone comes to you after me, tell them that they have signed for someone. So please, these are things that can make people so disappointed, and it's their cost. Yes, coming to Mr. Baji's TOT, the TOT is for the IEC staff, the training for the political parties. Like I said earlier, we will revise, we will go back as management and look at the numbers to be invited, because this time it's constituency, and it's necessary maybe parties will want to do regional training for their agents, or we will look at it whether in our regional trainings we will invite you, but management will look into that, or increase the number, because our numbers have also grown over the years. Now we are thinking of 7,000 to 8,000 polling staff. So bringing them with you will not pay dividend. So we will look at it. That's a very good idea. This is why we engage. You tell us your opinion. If it is feasible and that is something to better the process, we will definitely adopt it. Thank you for that. We note it. Yes.
Concerning the service, some people are complaining that foreigners are being registered. These people are hired by us for the elections. We don't know them, thousands of them. And if you bring passport, ID card, or birth certificate, they will give you voter's card. So that's why when this election is completed, we paste those in that particular center whenever they complain. We don't want to only last one and say, well, non-government are being registered. Because it will be again, for 3 or 4 days. So if anybody comes with an ID card, birth certificate, or passport, or attestation, they are given voter's card. So we are not ready. Please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Moving on the issue of issuing of nomination paper, the question was, it's only one day which is said, this is the opening day. From the 4th of February 2022, nomination forms will be available at the IC office free of charge. Let me add this there. But we don't expect you to be collecting over and over and over. One man, one form. You can collect on the 4th, you can collect on the 13th, you can collect on the 15th, but by the 5th of March, nominations start. And electorally, I can advise you, if you want to contest, go and collect the form on time and start your work. Our take is whoever wants to contest should be given the opportunity to contest. And we are advising you, if you want to contest anywhere in this country, any constituency, by the 4th of February, go to the regional office that is in charge of that region and collect a form free of charge. And when you are collecting the form, please ask them. In fact, they have been briefed, they've been trained to let you know what you should do. You may be a veteran, but take the time to ask whether there are any changes, how to go about it. If you are a novice coming for the first time, please take the time and ask. Because we don't want people at the end of the day, when we finalize our nomination list, we say so-and-so rejected, you start rushing to the courts. It's not helpful. It is not helpful in any way. It will just create anxiety, animosity, and will even want to soil the whole electoral process. As if we are trying to bar candidate A or B. That's not our intention. That's not our wish. But we will also not let people to contest when they do not fulfill the legal requirement. You have the opportunity to ask for it. You can do it. But let's not do shortcut. And even if you collect it, fill it, bring it back before your nomination for verification and vetting. Some people could have done it, but they did not bring anything until on nomination day when time is gone and we start work and we say rejected and they say they start talking. I know they could have done it. They have it. They can do. But please, excuse my language, don't be proud. Come and ask us, this is election. How is it? What I've done, whether it's right? I have seen people who were coming into that office asking us, and these people were veterans. They've been into election, they've been contesting, but they will come every day. This is what we have done. How is it? If those people can come, why not others? So please, I'm just trying to share experiences. I think we are doing our job. Yes, maybe you can take the next batch.
Yeah, okay. I think 3 hands are up already.
Yes, mine was up.
Number 1, number 2, and number 3. Okay.
Yeah, like polling stations, their holes are too small. Tokens given to some of the candidates, the electors, they are bigger than the tokens. So I just want you to tell me if that was true. How are you working towards seeing some changes in that? Or that was just the question that I wanted to ask.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Then number 2 behind. Number 2 behind, yes, please. Okay. You just state your name, then you do your comment or your question.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. I am Dan Ture, representing National Reconciliation Party, NRP. I just have a suggestion to the IEC. But before coming to the suggestion, I must commend the IEC for the hard work they have done during the presidential election. Because we all know how difficult election it is. But nonetheless, you stand firm and conduct the elections very free, fair. So I'm commending you for that good job. But I'm just making a suggestion for your polling staff. Looking at the time, when we say 8 o'clock, because this is something that I have experienced during the presidential elections, the lapses on your polling staff. Mm-hmm. Because some of the polling booths started 15 minutes or 20 minutes after 8 o'clock. The time is very precious because when we say 8 o'clock, we expect the polling staffs to do their work before 8 o'clock so that 8 o'clock start, the voting start. And these are some of the lapses from your polling staff. And the other thing is the voter list. I'm suggesting the IEC, the voter list you are providing for your polling staff, let it be colored so that they can easily identify the numerical and the alphabetical for the person that is coming to vote. Because I have experienced that during the voting, because the voter list that you produce for your polling staff was black and white. Mm-hmm. Before they can able to trace the person voting, is very difficult. I'm suggesting for you to get colored one, mm-hmm, instead of black and white. So those are the suggestions I have. And the question I have, I think the NRP guy have raised it, which was the marbles. That's the token. For me, even today, I still say no to that because I don't think that the IEC will do that because they are saying that the marble is bigger than the blood drums hole. Even today, I don't believe it because it was a concern raised. And it will be very important we hear from you whether that was true or not. And if it is true, I think you need to vet all these ballot drums before the election day so that we will not have those issues. But even today, I don't believe that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ture. And we have number 3 here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, IEC, again, for this opportunity. the first journalist to ask the question. Yusuf Taylor for Gainako. We've always been together for a while now. So my first question is regarding the returning officers / commissioner. One of the commissioners has retired, Madam Aissatou Jalondu. We thank her for her service and all your service. But the question now is the setup of the commission. Whether has this position been replaced? She was the only female gender. First question, sir. Which brings me to the concerns that the public, some member of public, I'll be specific, because when they say some, sometimes people think it's us. So the former Minister of Information was highlighting that there was no gender balance in the returning officer. So I don't know, you perhaps can see the linkage in my questioning, sir. So this was raised up by the former cabinet officer, the Minister of Information, D.A. Jawo. He highlighted that there was no gender balance, whether something could be done to address that. And then finally, we understand from you, you have been a strong gender advocate. We've observed that. You highlighted in this very room, I think 2 weeks ago, that you would be, maybe you can clarify for me and perhaps correct me where I'm wrong. Because
And I like the questions. Yes, for the ANR, the question on the ballot drums and the tokens, I can tell you the tokens are of the same size. What happened is we have received information that some of the tokens could not fit into the holes on election day. And this was a big surprise to all of us because these ballot drums were made by by an institution very renowned in making metalwork, that's GTTI. They've tested it, given it to us, and we deployed to our regional offices. At the regional offices, they also tested it and painted them in the color of the candidates and giving it to the presiding officers who tested it and taking it to the polling station. It's happened, I don't know, miraculously or whatever, that some of them could not fit in. But when that happened, we asked them, because we gave them pliers to cut the seals in the evening. We say, just put this plier there and turn it, squeeze it, it will open up. But it was not something pre-planned or pre-made to create any unequal whatever. So what we are saying, this time we'll continue the test, but this has never happened. What we thought that has caused it, maybe the paint we have done, because some of the paint, you know, when you paint again, the space becomes smaller. So this is it, because some of these ballot done, the first painting will be the red oxide. Then you do you put on you do the first course, like the painter will say, and the second course. And in order to make it very nicely look, you have to do up to the third course. So perhaps this has reduced the size of the hole, but it was not something that was intentional, but it was rectified immediately. Okay, moving on. And repeat, my brother Dan. Yes, you said our polling staff. Yes, I will not deny that some of our staff may report somehow late or open polling station late, but the time you have given at 8:15 and polls are supposed to open at 8 o'clock is still within time. Even though we don't want a minute after 8 late. But internationally, and if it back our next door neighbor, last week I was monitoring election from my room. Some polling station in Kedugu did not open up to 12 p.m. Yes. And I have also observed election in other countries. Some people polling station did not open at all. Some stations open at 2 p.m. If we have a station that open 15 minutes after the normal time, we don't want it, we deploy it, we condemn it, but we will continue to encourage our staff to go out and report to work because they are paid and they have a duty to fulfill, and this is what we expect from them. And we will do our utmost to facilitate their opening of polling station on time. But I think this must have happened within the greater Banjul area due to transport issues. But in the provinces, they sleep where they work. But nonetheless, we will continue to entreat them, and people who do not open on time, we will not consider in subsequent electoral activity. But the timing definitely is not bad. 15 minutes late is not bad, but I'm not encouraging it. We are not encouraging it. On the issue of the voters list to be printed in color, yes, it is very possible, but it goes with a lot of cost. Color printing, it means colored cartridges. Then we will consider, management will look into this in future electoral activities, whether to make it colored or not. But for now, the reason for making it black and white is purposely a cost. Maybe perhaps we will ask the political parties to ask for from the donors more money so that we can print it in colors. Yes, no, definitely. But again, there are other features in the voters list. You have the name, you have the surname, you have the card number, you have the gender column. So those are all features that can be used to identify the voter before you, and the photo. And the colored printing, the black and white printing is very good. It's very legible. You can see it. Okay, moving on. Mr. Taylor's correction that I have a commission member who was with us and is no more with us. She's still arrived. Mrs. Aisha Jalano. She resigned shortly before the elections. The commission has notified the relevant authorities the existence of that vacancy. As you know, commission members are appointed by another authority, not the commissioners. For us, like staff, I'm appointed by the commission, but the commissioners are appointed by the authority of state. So we have notified them, and in fact, she has notified them when she was leaving. So we have reminded them. Concerning gender and returning officers, we would have loved to have all our officers as female officers, but you cannot give what you don't have. She was the only one in the commission. And let me tell you one thing. Today is my 26th year in elections, but 4 years ago, if you look for any officer, even male officer, you'll hardly find it, talk less of female officers, both at commission level or even at. It's just now that we started recruiting female officers and encouraging them. In those days, if you go to approach certain women to come and take positions as commissioner, they will tell you that you want to make me the flesh among the hyenas. Yes, even our presiding officers, it is now that they are queuing in our last presidential election. You see the types of people who applied to work for us. People with masters, bachelors. In those days, those people did not even bother to look at us when we call. So the question is, were they afraid? And they have left us to clear the road for them. Now they want to come in, but we don't know. Our intention is to have as many women as possible. And for that matter, not as many as possible, but qualified. At the moment, we don't have. We are trying to recruit. We have, thank God, that we have 3 regional assistant regional officers that can be pushed up. And as we have vacancies, we bring them up. On the issue of a quota in elections, this was stated here some 2 weeks like this. Yes, chairman will take it. That was his own statement. Yes.
What I'm saying is, on the gender issue, we're very careful about that. That's why moves were made, the political parties, to make sure that at least 35% of the people nominated to contest elections will be women. And now there's another bill. We are trying to at least approach or appeal to the authorities on this bill they are now trying to pass, where there will be elections only for women, 2 per region, so that at least minimum 14 women will in parliament, but also women form the majority of voters, but yet they are not selected to go and contest. But we want to improve on this for the political parties to make sure that they at least nominate 35% of their candidates to as women, so that they'll be representative in parliament. And even though this sister who resigned from the job, we are trying to get the authorities to also appoint a woman to go and replace her. So it's something that people feel about it, because they are the majority voters, yet how many in parliament? Four out of 53. I mean, it's not on. So we are trying to do that and make sure that the political parties, political parties, make sure that those who are selecting to contest elections, 75% of them are women. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I hope next parliament we have half women. And we have 3 hands. There was one, I think. Oh no, that was one. No, not you, Omar. That was your daily 2 and 3, right?
I want to play with the IEC to kind of like do it an opening.
Thank you for those asking. Before I go further, I want to recognize in our midst my own vice chairman who has just joined us in the midst of these things. He's a student of law at the University of the Gambia, writing exams. So, Vice, welcome. Yes, and maybe along the line you will take some of this because he was a director of communication. Joseph Colley, Mr. Joseph Colley. Okay, I can see the GPU is suggesting that the number we gave them to attend this kind of meeting should be reconsidered. The point is noted. We never knew that you have that difficulty. This will be tabled before management and we see. We are really incentivized and motivated by your approach that you want to attend. For us, what is important is attendance, especially the media, because we want whatever is said here to reach all the governments, and it is you who made it happen. So definitely, management is here, they are listening, they will look at it and decide on it. On the issue of accreditations, your applications, I think the director of communication handled that thing the last time. At this point in time, I'll ask him to throw light where it's going to be the same formality that GPU can come as the umbrella body of all the journalists, or the media organization can apply on their own. I think, Pa, you want to say something on that?
Yes, very well. I think it's a two-way process based on argument or consensus that GPU, the government president, may come to represent all the other media houses.
The umbrella body GPU. But along the line, we saw some of your member organizations applying individually, and we couldn't want to reject them. And we said, okay, in the interest of transparency and fast tracking their participation, because on the eve of nomination, some were complaining that you call for application to be submitted to the IEC, but still now you have not responded to them. And they decided to come direct to us. And we say, since you are a member media organization, why not we give it to you? So I think we will urge you to continue the good work you are doing, but nevertheless, like he says, it's a two-way. If any media house decides to come to IEC and apply it, we will be able to do something. Okay, moving on. Yes.
How do you gauge the person that is a journalist? Because at our level, it's not every something I can apply. We have like rules, and then you have to be on the media. If you're a freelance also, you have to be practicing journalist, and then that also you will know that you're a journalist. Even if you're not registered with us, we still will. If you know that you're a journalist, a practicing one, then because we don't want to fill that place with people that are not journalists. Some are there for and then going behind the journalism to do something that is, and then they will come back to. Blame entire, and then to the Gambia Press Union. This is why we were so appreciative when the approach was made that Gambia Press Union, we want you to start A, B, C, and then you give us the list, and then we give you the press card. Anyone interested can come to the union and collect the card. So if anybody went to direct to apply, do you guys have any kind of like assessment that you do to make sure you ascertain exactly the person is a journalist?
Yes, here we are still challenging Mr. GPU in the sense that you have maybe a purview of national journalists or journalists operating nationally. But how about the international journalists? No. Are you done? If you are done, you let me know. Okay. No, I mean, here is a national democratic activity, and it's highly sensitive to restrict people who are interested in monitoring. You know, in election, when you want to hide, if you want to hide an activity from any individual, that person becomes suspicious. We know you have journalists, you have joined the list, and you have whatever you have. But all that we are doing, if you are not a journalist, we don't want to hide it from anybody. So we are asking you, if you can let us know with your journalists that you are the umbrella body. We should not accredit anybody other than your people. Let us know. I think we will take these things to another level between us, between our two management. We discuss it. Because I don't want somebody to come and say, I'm a journalist, and you say, he's a journalist, but he's not a member of our organization. This is why this invitation I always direct to you. And also, are you in charge of state institutions? So those are all the other issues we looked at. International media houses, the BBC, the Al Jazeeras, the France 24, the TFMs, the ITVs, they came in and said, we are applying. Do you expect us to tell them, go to GPU? Do you want us to do that? Please let us know. So these are our challenges. This is why we say it's a two-way. Okay, I think we'll move on on that. Okay, moving on. Yes.
That even some international journalists or international media, some have to apply to the Ministry of Communication for what, clearance. But nonetheless, we don't have the clearance, we just
if it you.
So this is why we say it's a two, either on the GPU or Ministry of Communication. Once we apply for the IEC, then we will give.
Yes, you also talk about cooling off period, and you say for their supporters. I don't think that should be an issue, because during the time we see governments going into compounds that they don't know. But what we have received complaints in the past that on cooling off day you see political candidates going into certain compounds at night, that we cannot do anything we are saying, and that we also receive complaints that they have seen certain individuals who are claim to be members of certain political parties to be going in certain compounds. We cannot stop that. That's what we actually said. Cooling off means no public politicking. That is the staging of political gathering in a public place using PA system, canvassing for vote for a candidate or a political party. How about a ngente, a cheat on the eve of election? It's a gathering, but it's not a political gathering. We have to be very careful of the definition. Okay, moving on. Party materials. What I said was we don't want anybody or any voter going to a polling station with any party materials, and that's law. We know when you say party material, we mean it involves colors. But there is nothing stopping me. Black, there may be somebody with black color, but nothing say don't put on black color. What do I say? This party paraphernalia, the photograph, the symbols, and all those stuff. Our people, when we train them, they know what they look for. The badges, the cap, the asubes, and the like. That's what they look for. But you cannot say, don't put on the color of any political party. If you do that, you are telling them, don't put on any dress today. Yes.
Colors now.
But we also encourage governments, when they are going, let them not go there political. It's all about the orientation. Okay, let's move on. For iAfrica, there will be no registration again. Registration was concluded in July for this electoral cycle. Whether you are 18 now or not, we are going to use our existing register to conduct these National Assembly elections. We note of your concern, but however, there will be replacement of voters' card for those who have lost their voters' card. A date will be identified, and it will be communicated through the press to all of you. or in our next meeting, you will get the date. But it's just going to be for 1 week, and it's happening at the regional offices. You also talk of state resources that have been claimed to be used in the campaign towards the elections. As far as we are concerned as IEC, we are not aware of any, and all the international observer reports, and even the local observer reports that we have received, we have not seen it there. We'll be very happy to let us have any document on that. Please, ma. Missing names. Again, you said there were missing names. At head office level, we have not received it. And at regional office, if they have received, they have not communicated. And if they had received it, they would have communicated it. I don't know where that happened, but please help us know where it happened so that we can look into it before the next election. Please. On the issue of the third ranking, I said it's been said that apart from Botswana and Cape Verde, Gambia has the most democratic elections conducted in recent times, where you have a high turnout and where you have a large turnout of election observers with virtual or with all of them unanimously agreeing that the election was free and fair. This is not said by the commission or me, but it's said by the international observers. And they were led by former president, very renowned president. We all know the Goodluck Jonathan. We all know Obasanjo. We all know Halima Motlanthe of South Africa. We all know Ernest Bai Koroma. This international, because Ernest was my head of mission in Zambia elections. So they will not talk the talk for the sake of talking. And they came under international organizations such as the Commonwealth, the ECOWAS, African Union, Elders Forum of West Africa, and the like. And if you look at their reports, they have not seen anywhere, practically or technically, where they faulted the elections. They only advise create legal unit and the like. Okay. For Fatus Network, if I understand you are saying our notion of no voters card, no vote. That should not be the case because according to international practice, according to what you said, is saying that even whereas you don't have a voter's card, you should be able to vote. I want to disagree with you on that. I have been into elections for the past 26 years and observed over 25. Wait, I'm coming. You had the opportunity to talk. I'm talking now. Should I give you the chance? No, I'm clarifying. No, yes. Even if you register and you go to the polling station without a voter's card, you are not going to vote. That's what I'm saying. And according to international standard, it's only Sierra Leone where I know you can, if you register, you can go to a polling station without a voter's card and vote. But it's with all these countries, Commonwealth countries, Anglophone countries, Africa, before you vote, your voter's card. So if you want to give me any evidential proof, let me know. I know of Sierra Leone that if you are a registered voter and you go to a polling station, you can vote without your voter's card. But even in Ghana, say the other countries, Nigeria, they give you the voter's card there and then. They like. So here we are telling you, our law says a voter can only vote upon the presentation of his or her voter's card. Even if you register and you go to a polling station without your voter's card, you cannot vote. That's the law here. And it's in line with the best practices. And you also talk about voter sensitization and what are these things? Invalid vote. Invalid vote is very simple. Invalid vote is a vote that is not accepted as a vote for any candidate in an election. Why? Because the vote has not been placed inside the ballot drop of a candidate. For example, the first-time voters, they may, instead of putting in candidate A box or candidate B ballot drop, they put it on top. It happened. So these are what is called invalid votes. And finally, you talk about criteria for the National Assembly elections. I want to inform this gathering that the criteria will come in our next monthly forum. We just want to tell you that this is what we are going to do for this month and to open the space so that we can move together. Next month, maybe perhaps by the mid of the month, we will tell you who is qualified and who is not qualified. But nevertheless, the laws are here for all of you to go and read. because these are this can be found in the constitutions and the Elections Act, and which is public. But IEC is going to do a deduction, an extract of those laws, and take you through next month. So on that note, thank you.
Okay, thank you, CEO.
Returning officers. My vice chair want to say something.
I think there should be clarity. Now, with the presidential election, the country is one constitution. That's why the commission appoints the chairman as the returning officer. But when it comes to National Assembly, we have 53 constituencies, and then the country is also divided into regions. Like I'm in charge of KMC, so I have 7 constituencies, so I'll be the returning officer for those constituencies. But yet still the law says that the commission declares or announces the results. So we will return the results, send them to headquarters, and chairman will announce the results. But we will conduct the elections. So we will declare the winners, because we will have to certify the results at the region before they go to headquarters. So we are the returning officers this time. Chairman is no longer returning officer. You understand? But he's chairman of the commission, because the law says it's the commission that announces. So we will have to send the results back to the headquarters.
Actually, the confusion here was the announcement. Who is going to do the announcement?
What did I say? I say, yeah. So I've answered your question now. All right.
Thank you. Can I take the other one now? I'll move on. Yes, on the issue of constituency in which you are not registered. I think that's what you mean. It doesn't mean whether you're from Nyamina and you're registered in Bundum. So it's just contesting in a non-registered constituency. Actually, the law is very clear on that. I said here that the qualification and the disqualification will come in our subsequent monthly meeting, but you still don't want to drag me. And you have gotten me. Yes, there is a clause in the laws that say if you are qualified to register as a voter, you can contest. It does not necessarily mean you have to register here and contest here. Am I being heard? Yes.
Sorry. Even whereas it is stating that, what he is saying, the example that he gave. So originally he is from Yamina. So the connection is there, even though he is not registered there. So it means if he becomes a candidate, he cannot vote for himself.
Yes.
But he can be a candidate. You understand? Because ordinary residence is there. So the connection, there has to be a connection.
A link, nexus.
Nexus between you and the place
where you are contesting.
Whether you staying there or whether you are born there and there. You understand? I know you always go to Nyamina, you have a house there. So and then you are registered here, so you can contest. But the other thing is like, how can you tell people to vote for you? On election day, on election day you cannot vote for yourself. So that's the only disadvantage.
I was registered here.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. What this vice chairman was saying is very clear. There's connection. What I said earlier was, hello, you can contest in an area in which you are not a registered voter, because the law says you can contest an election even if you are not registered. The law says you can contest if you are qualified to be registered. In fact, he has taken note that if you are not registered, you can contest for National Assembly election and presidential. And that goes to add to that, you can contest in an area in which you are not registered. But you can contest and the law says where you contest, you should be ordinarily resident. And ordinarily resident, the interpretation is very clear. You were either born there, you have a part family there, you have a property there. Like he's saying, he could be registered in Bundum, but perhaps he was born in Nyamina West, you can contest there. Perhaps he has a piece of land, or even family linkage, family relation. So for National Assembly, it's very difficult to say this person cannot contest in this area. So I wanted to keep these things for the next briefing, but let me just say, you can contest. All that you need to do is get the other requirement, because I don't think you will go into an area where you don't have any family linkage, no property, you are not born there, you are not registered. These four.
Or even working there.
Those 4 things, you're not working there. Those 4 things, that is what, and you are not residing currently there or in the past 12 months. And it's very hard to get resident for the past 12 months. Most of us have not slept where we've been living for the past 12 months. Did we? Don't we travel during the past 12 months? So, I mean, so it's very difficult. This is why I will come to that when I'm answering Mr. Ja, my brother Dudu, on this law. So this is why we're calling for reforms. So in some areas, they say you must be a registered voter, like the local government elections. It's very clear. You must be a registered voter to contest in the area you are seeking election. Very simple. So we look out for your registration. Simple. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. GDC said the soft copy, he mentioned of the issue of they were expecting us to give the hard copies as it was the case. Now that we are giving the soft copies, and he thought of poor candidates, I quote him, quote unquote. So what we are saying, we used to give hard copies, but with the proliferation of political parties, 18, if all of you, and we are always seeing you all, we are not seeing alliances, we are not seeing anything. We are seeing you as an individual entities. So don't quote me anywhere. A party is a party once you are registered. We see you as of equals. So that's what we consider 18 political parties. You give them a register of 25,000 pages. The National Register of the Gambia is 25,000 pages. And we are not going to take it from any political party that you are not going to contest in all the elections, unless you put it in black and white and send it to us. And no party will do that. We know you. So we know what we are doing. When we are budgeting, when we are targeting, we base our decision on law. Because if we say you party A, you have never contested election, we don't consider you will be the first to take us to court. Because once you are registered by us, you become a legal entity. So we are considering this. That now, since deposit is not increased, how much do you pay for the deposit? 5,000. Some of the constituencies as big as Serekunda West of 69 polling stations, a polling station is minimum 25 pages by 69. And a photocopy today is $5. And this is photo document. So, and it takes more ink when printing. This is why when somebody was talking of colored, they don't factor cost. So now the responsibility will be on the political parties to do their bit. Or you allow us to increase the deposit, we print for you. So maybe we'll discuss that later somewhere. Yes.
Okay. That's the elections. Per candidate. You should owe $2 million per candidate. Just on
ballot drums.
Just on ballot drums. $2 million per candidate. Are you money there?
Excluding the painting.
Yeah.
And one of the candidates, the color, a liter was cost us nearly $2,000. 1 liter of that candidate's color costs us about, because you have to combine 3 colors to have it. So logistically, what we encounter, if we want to put it before you, but I mean that's it. But some of the constituents are not too big. The candidates will be able to print, but we are telling you here, like in the presidential election, candidates are going to print for themselves. What we can give is just the soft copy. Don't be surprised, don't be disappointed. We want to put it on record. Okay, moving on. You also talk about the Ramadan and the election. It's rather unfortunate that the law says 4 months after the presidential election, and this is it. And the last election, and also the law says 5 years. The last parliamentary election was on the 6th of April, 2017. The last presidential election was on the 4th of December, 2021. We cannot go beyond April. So this is it. It's in Ramadan, and coincidentally, Muslims are going to fast, and Christians will be in the Lenten period. So it's unfortunate So we just want to be constitutional, go by the law. So this is it. We know it. We definitely know it. You also talk of complaints to the IEC to take immediate responses. I wouldn't say it happened or wouldn't happen, but I encourage all political parties, if you have any issue with the IEC, just come to and knock our doors. And for the case of the GDC, I remember your officer, Jiang Nyang. He was always in our offices taking care of your issues. I don't know which particular case are you referring, but during the presidential election, I can tell you, even your party leader, we talk. He calls us when you have issues. So likewise, any other party, we have seen other parties when they have issues, they come and we talk. We are there for you, you are there for us. There is no IEC without political parties. But don't send us a letter and sit. And let us receive, we always act. Honestly. If you see that we don't act, maybe perhaps the one who is acting is in the field because he's inundated with other issues. But that should not stop you. You know our offices, you have our numbers. Call us, please. We are not there to, try to belittle or, disregard any complaint against us. So the other one is Mr. Duduja. That's fine. I understand what you have said. Banjul being not a big area, and the number of political parties and candidates, and the requirement of 300, it may, and especially at constituency level, you may, if you have many candidates, they may not fulfill all the criteria. And you are asking what the IEC can do now. I think that correction is not for us now, because in our reform agenda, we said, instead of asking for a certain number, let's go for percentage. If we had said, at least if you want to contest, you should get at least 1% of the registered voter, then there will be no problem. Then the 1% will be depending on the number of registered voters. But now the law is very static and fixed, 300. Those who can get the 300 with no doubles will pass. Those who cannot, sorry. Thank you. In fact, Banjul is not even that much a problem. How about Janjambure as a constituency? Janjambure as a constituency. Janjambure, you cannot have more than 5 candidates. Or let's say 6 candidates. Janjambure is about 1,005. 1,006, yes. So if 1,006, you have 6 candidates, then there is something. And this has led us to now be verifying. And like I said, we are going to verify in the regions like we did in the presidential. We are going to verify. We have the resources, we have the manpower. And we have prepared for that. So please, the best thing would have been you have the number of supporters should be at least 5% of the registered voter in that constituency or in the electoral area. Then everybody was free or increase the deposit. When you put it at a fixed number, there will come a time a place will be depopulating and a place will be repopulating. So you can see this will be the problem. So this is why when you make laws, you don't have to be it doesn't have to be stagnant or stagnant. You call for, you open it so that in future you need not to go to be changing it. Percentages will be the best. But anyway, right now, the law says 300. Even if you're a constituency of 300 people, that's what we can go with, honestly. Because if we deviate anything from the law, we are going to court. And I know I don't want to be meeting some of you in the courts again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then,
I have the Director of Operations. He has to answer the question whether can a voter, can a candidate contest without being a registered voter? Director, you want to answer to that? Without being a registered voter. Yes. So what is the difference between even having a valid voter's card and not even registered? Yes. So
already we said that a Gambian who's eligible to register
as a voter
can even contest. So what is not valid is not valid. So we'll not recognize it. But if you can prove that you can register,
you are qualified to register.
You are qualified to register. I see no reason why you cannot contest.
Yes,
it can be linked to the other answer.
Yes, we said it before. It's very simple. The law said if you are qualified to register as a voter, you can contest election. Meaning, even if you do not register, you can contest. So the issue of invalid or ineligible, that is not there. at all. Because for us, you are either qualified to get a voter's card or you are not qualified. And once you are not qualified, you are not qualified. But you may be qualified to register, but during the registration, you might not have been here. Or for one reason or the other, you couldn't go to the registration center. So all those things will factor. Maybe that's what the law factor. I'll come back to you. So on the issue of the soft copy and gadgets, I have the director of IT with us here. I will ask him just to do an intro, and then you give it back to me. Mr. Jah?
Yeah, my brother, the purpose of us giving you the soft copy is before we used to provide the hard copy in order to show transparency so that you can be able to tally at the end of the day. So my worry here is like if you use the laptop, the gadget you call it, maybe your tablets, hopefully you will be able to take the individuals when they come to vote so that at the end of the day you can be able to do the tally. If not, then you have to at least activate the PDF to be able to do that. Then, but I don't think most of you will be able to do that. You have to activate the PDF to be edited so that at least whoever comes up, then you can take. Then at the end of the day, then you can move on. I don't know how difficult that's going to be. I think it's easier for you just to print it out and then tick as you go.
Yes, the register will be in PDF, and it's going to be very hard for one to break it. I know some people can do some breaking, but the intention or the objective of this is you will tick voters as they come to vote so that you know who vote and who has not. If you put it in your laptop, a telephone or whatever, how would you be ticking people? How would you be knowing people? And scrolling up and down may take time. And our officers will not be waiting on you, because I believe flipping of papers is easier than scrolling up and down. So this is the essence. But I mean, the choice is all yours. If you decide to go that way, we will appeal that don't delay the polling process, because we will tell our officers that we cannot spend 5 minutes to trace a voter on the register. That one is not acceptable. We have time target, time estimate for any voter to be processed. Moving on to the coalition centers, Mr. Jala of the ANRD. Yes, I quite agree with you. This is something that we have reviewed in our, for your information, let me just inform you. We also did our in-house review in a retreat that we held in Mansakon for 5 days. When was it? 2 weeks.
To the 14th of
January, just 2 weeks ago. We were in Mansakonko quietly, all the regional officers, all the commissioners, all the directors, all the deputy directors, and we were reviewing our system processes and programs, notably the presidential election, to check where we have challenges to improve and where we have successes to maintain and even improve, and plan for this. This is why we are able to come out to you. We are not sitting on our laurels saying that everything is fine. They said they clap for us. It's okay now. No. In our retreat, one of the issues that came up is the issue of laptop to be used in our coalition centers, because even the returning officers, the assistant returning officers, our presiding, they find it very difficult because they were doing it manually and the like. We have agreed as a commission that we will deploy our laptops. We have laptops that this time it will be done electronically. But the advice is we are not going to do it digitally alone. People want to be so digital in this day and time, forgetting manual. Remember, the laptop can crash. Remember, with a punch or a click, you may miss a data on Excel. And Excel is very difficult to work with. We will do it side by side. The director of finance, please come on that. Tell us what happened on that, on the results for the Excel, and what's the problem with using Excel? Yeah, especially in resource management. The whole house is here.
Okay, using Excel because the whole spreadsheet have a number of cells, and if there's a corruption in any of the cells, it can end up, throwing the results. So what we were doing was using both Excel and also manual calculator on election night. And it was definitely very tense, but thank God, successful.
Yes. Yes, Director, thank you. Actually, we reviewed. I, for one, I was using Excel with him in my office. As the results come, we use Excel. But we have also realized some of our coalition centers, they were not using it. This time, we will train them on how to use it, and they will use it. But again, the advice is, even they are going to use it, they must carry on with the old way of doing it. So that in case if you have any flop in or flop out, as you want to call it, you will have a backup. Because, and I agree also with you. The time they arrive at the coalition center, they are very tired, and there is always tension. So this is why you feel you sympathize them. So, and it's easier to use those things. But again, let us not just completely disregard manual. We will use Excel. It will be easier, and they will do the comparison. And this is why we always say there is no limitation period for a results announcement. There is no limitation period for results announcement. Nobody should hold us account for a delay. There was no delay. In all the laws of the Gambia, and 24 hours or 48 hours before election day, our regional officers, they work round the clock. Honestly, they work round the clock. In fact, all of us. So, and that election with all these, queries, all the complaints and the like. So this is why we advise them to take their time, not to rush. And alhamdulillah, this time we took our perfectly done. So let us not be very worried about it took some time. It could have taken more than that. But we were not playing, we were working. But we were working to make sure that we don't. Somebody, okay, Mr. Jallo also asked, you had the chairman saying results were signed by this candidate's representative and others were not signed. Yes, it happened. According to law, registration polling agents should sign election results at the polling station. We are also saying coalition agents should sign coalition results at the coalition centers. We are also saying regional office agents should also sign regional office results at regional office level. So we are also saying national resource office agents should sign results at national office. But the signing or not signing is not mandatory and does not make the results invalid. If they want to sign, they can sign. If they don't want to sign, we will proceed with the results and announce. And when we announce, we'll say so-and-so has signed, so-and-so has not signed. The reason for not signing, some of them do not even tell us. We will take them the results, they say, I'm not signing. And it happens that they were there. If they were not there, one can understand. This is what happened. But that does not make the results not to be valid. But it adds to the credence of the election. But if you cannot force them to sign. Even you don't force people to vote. Voting is voluntary in this country. So these are the issues. But I can assure you, from the word go to the final part of like we say, if you ask for 300, bring 1,000. If some of them are to be rejected, they will not reject until to the extent that you may not have up to 300. That is what is inadvisable. Because if you have doubles, you may not have over 300 doubles. So if you ask 300, bring 1,000. If you are coming for a big constituency, like Busumbala, about 30-something thousand, why do you have to bring 300? Bring 10,000. Then you will even torture the guys doing the verification because they have to sit and do it one after the other. You understand? So that's the advice I'm giving. And I make this analogy the last time that when you collect, you don't collect it for any other agency or institution. Collect it for IEC, give it to IEC. Don't wait until nomination is over. You are rejected, you start going to another place to say, well, I had more than enough. I thought it was not necessary. That was not your intention or your objective on collecting it. Your objective was to contest election, use it to contest election. But you did not take it to the right institution at the time. So please tell your candidates to go for more signatories. Yes, Vice want to add something here before I go forward.
Yes, you people are the ones going to look for these signatures. Now, if you go to a particular person, ask the person, have you already endorsed the nomination of, so that you don't have problems. Because we know what some of you do. Because if you look at, if database can give you an analysis, seemingly all of you went to almost the same people. And you know what that implies. Either some of you just sat down in one corner and copied. Because it cannot be a coincidence that almost 5 or 6 candidates have almost the same. Because if you come to KMC and all of you have your supporters from New Joshua, the same place. Something is on somewhere. You go to Sierra, you go to Bani also. So all the supporters from the same place, almost the same names. So it's a big problem. So I think all of us have to be professional, and all of us have to be very much aware of what we're doing. We use what? We employ our conscience, and we know that what we're doing is good. Because we know. That's why we were able to disqualify a lot of people based on what? The nomination, because they got almost the same. Because you have the soft copy. We know all of you have the soft copy. So you want what? You want quick shortcut. So if you come with shortcut, we also
get as many as possible. Don't not on the 300. Okay, moving on. On the issue of nomination and public scrutiny, I want to inform my brother Bayo that this parliamentary election would be different. When I say parliamentary, I mean National Assembly. Candidates are going to be rejected on the spot if they present incomplete documents. Am I making sense? If your package say you have to bring asset declaration, if you do not bring it, our returning officers are going to reject you on the spot and say, go and come back. We will not wait till the end of the nomination and start saying, this is qualified or not. We will reject you there and then. You go and get what you should get, and if you want to come, you come back. Am I making sense? So this is what is going to happen. We will take, this is why I said, when you go to collect your nomination, ask them what you should bring. And before your nomination, they go back to the office and for them to verify and vet for you. Imagine you come with your crowd and whatever, on that very day, you miss one document and you are rejected there and then. How would you feel? And this is what is going to happen. And don't take us for granted. We are going to reject people on the spot if you have anything missing during the nomination period, but we will give you time to go and make it up. You will not wait until the last day of public scrutiny and say, okay, here are the list of qualified, list of unqualified, list of withdrawn. No. As you submit, if you have your papers, you pass the first step of going to verification. Verification, if you are okay, then we'll give you acceptance. But if you come, you do not have the required documentation, income tax, asset declaration, and all those stuff. I can't remember offhand. We will say, go and get it. We will not accept it. Because we don't want to even keep your papers when they are not in order. When everything is in order, then we can say, we receive your papers, we give you a receipt, and push it to the next level of verification. And the verification, if you have it correct, we give you acceptance. If you don't have it correct, we return it to you and say, go and make it good before the time ends. So it's going to take that line. For public scrutiny, this was part of the transparency we wanted to add into the elections. But people don't see it in that way. Public scrutiny should be done as the nomination is going on. This was done in the last election. We set a date, and it gave us a lot of problems. Some journalists were telling us the 5 minutes was too small, and these were our friend journalists, and there was big encounters. That was never solicited. It was never called for. It was never called for. Politicians were also coming. The 5 minutes. This time we are telling you, as nomination is going, if you can't come and scrutinize, you come and scrutinize. Because that's what the law says. If you can. Because I know some parties when they are coming, you cannot pass in. So you see, we were trying to be administrative, we were trying to have some administrative convenience, but our kindness and generosity has taught us a lesson. Now, if you can't come during the nomination period to scrutinize, please come. We are not hiding it. There is scrutiny still, but it's during as nomination is going on. Every day, that is the papers that are submitted. If you can come and scrutinize, come and scrutinize it. And between the 11 and 12 is when you want to make an observation. So it will be very difficult. So moving on the withdrawal. Yes, you can withdraw before the withdrawal date, and the party can replace. But if you have withdrawal after the withdrawal date, it's unfortunate. And for one reason, we are talking of somebody falling ill, somebody might have passed away. But let me tell you one thing. We have also witnessed, after the elapse of the withdrawal period, a candidate withdrew because of some, what would I call it? He was convinced to withdraw. And he told his party, I am no longer with you. And guess what? The next minute, he was with the other party. So if your candidate can do that, Allah who owns us, what can he do? You cannot stop it. But the law says 7 days before, there is a close of withdrawal. But again, if a candidate dies, there is provision for the possibility of pushing the election. That I see in the law. But if somebody falls ill, that he cannot contest, that we cannot do anything. If somebody dies, the law says you can call for fresh nomination and postpone the election. And I don't think these are extreme cases, though we are not disregarding it, but we should not be thinking of the negatives. Okay. Madam, what we say, there is no limitation period. We don't want people to hold us responsible for something that the law has not asked us to do. But because that is very unfair on us. So what we are, even when we are used to having it within the next 24 hours, but let us not lose sight of the fact that Gambia used to be about 2-3 political parties contesting election. Today you are thinking of 18 political parties. You used to have about 900 polling stations. Today you are talking of 1,500 polling stations. You used to have, the political space has enlarged. So everything has enlarged. Our operations has enlarged. So as the operation enlarged, you need more time to work it out. And the level of advices that you people advise us to take our time not to have the results wrong was heeded. Was that not the case? And I think that's what all we like. But don't roast us, don't condemn us for doing the right thing. This is what we are saying. Our operations has enlarged. Because when I was director of operation, we were dealing with 636 polling stations. 2011. Today we are dealing with 1,500 polling stations. You see? Okay, so these are the only thing. We are not blaming anybody for blaming us, but we are asking people to give us time to do our work rightly. That's all we are asking. Okay? Okay, maybe you can take the rest.
Okay, there was, I'm seeing more hands now. There was number 4, I think. Okay, that's good.
So it seems this is a very interesting interaction. So it seems.
I'm going to be tight. So you're supposed to be patient. And we really appreciate your stance during the last elections. And proud that this one also come and pass without any problem. Sometimes we don't want to do it again next month in July, in February, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and maybe we can.
The Right Honorable Majority Leader of the National Assembly, the Right Honorable Minority Leader of the National Assembly, Honorable Samba Jallo, Deputy High Commissioner of the British High Commission in the Gambia, our friend, our brother, our colleague, always ready to respond to the National Assembly whenever the legislature knock on his doors, no other person but Gambia's celebrated historian, Mr. Hassum Sise. The Right Honorable Member for the Serekunda constituency, who is not only a National Assembly member, but he is also a prominent rights advocate, an educator, a sociologist, academic, researcher, philosopher, and above all, the man of the people, Honorable Halifa Sallah. Last and not the least, I wish to recognize my own boss, Gambia's veteran of parliamentary administration, clocking 3 decades into administering legislature and legislative processes. A smart strategist, a team player, a visionary. He is no other person than Momodu A. Sisi, Clerk of the National Assembly. Of the National Assembly, for the first time in the annals of our history, to interact, to engage, to share. The objective is to ensure that the citizens, the stakeholders in our governance, are aware of what the legislature is doing for and on their behalf. It also gives the legislature the opportunity to hear directly what the concerns, what the wishes, what the aspirations are. So we are privileged to be part of those writing history in this maiden edition of the National Assembly Open Day. And can we put our hands together for the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, for standing by the National Assembly in ensuring that we are accountable, we are transparent, we are visible to the electorates. The Westminster Foundation are the supporters behind today's event. Mr. Jabate and team, thank you. Without much ado, I wish to start the ball rolling, and there is no better way to start the ball rolling than to allow the very man himself to welcome you to his house. He is no other person than the Clerk of the National Assembly. Mr. Sise, you are welcome.
Honorable Majority Leader of the House, Honorable Keke Bojang, Honorable Halifa Sallah, Member for Serekunda, Honorable Members of the National Assembly, Your Excellency, the British High Commissioner to the Gambia, Representative of the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, Deputy Clerks, Directors of the National Assembly, invited speakers,
distinguished invited guests, officials of government who are here in present, students, school children from various schools selected, members of the press, all protocols respectfully observed. Good morning to you all. I am deeply delighted as clerk of the National Assembly to welcome you all to this maiden edition of the National Assembly Open Day. Today is symbolic and significant in that for the first time in the annals of our history, the National Assembly has taken some concrete steps to bring the legislature closer to the people. Honorable distinguished invited guests, today's event comes to the hilt of robust reforms in the National Assembly service. Instituted by the administration, reforms which do not only enhance effective service delivery, but also offer some technical advices and guidance to the legislature. It is the result of these collective efforts that culminated into the passing of the National Assembly Service Act 2021, which guarantees financial and operational independence to this very important organ of the state. It is obvious that parliaments are fundamental institutions of democratic governance. Effective parliament contributes to the rule of law, economic prosperity, and improved social welfare of this country. It is in this recognition of the reality and aware of the needs to support the National Assembly of the Gambia in its commitment toward providing the best parliamentary service to its citizens that we partner with Westminster Foundation to organize this important convergence today. Distinguished guests, the National Assembly Open Day therefore demonstrates the commitment of the legislature in bringing a more open and accessible institution to the public. It also further denotes an improvement in our service delivery by the National Assembly Service and to the promotion of citizens' engagement. We are aware that for many ordinary citizens and residents of this country, the National Assembly and politics are abstract notions that many only considered briefly during election period. Not many people care much for what is going on in this assembly, even though many life-changing laws and initiatives were made here. We sincerely hope that after today's events, you will know more about the legislature and how it evolves over the past years. The leaders who guided our nation before, during and after independence. And we also hope that you will gain basic knowledge about the National Assembly operations and the core principles it stands for during the various presentations that are to follow. On that note, I once again welcome you all to this important event and thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Much the clerk of the National Assembly, and I have not been disappointed. I have announced him as a veteran of parliamentary administration, and I think those short, sharp remarks did prove me true. What I will now do is to turn to our partners, those who have been working with us in the trenches, ensuring that this legislature fulfills its mandates, no matter how hard, no matter how sweet it is. And those are no other person than the Westminster Foundation for Democracy. And I have the pleasure to invite the country director, Mr. Madi Jobade, to make a statement.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jani. And let me say all protocols respectfully observed. It's very refreshing indeed. And I'm really glad to share these few remarks. To say WFD has been in the Gambia since 2017 and invited by the British High Commission and provided the first induction training for the elected National Assembly members in 2017. And by 2018, it opened offices in the Gambia, mainly located in the National Assembly, to support the National Assembly in the democratization process of the Gambia. Now, WFD itself is a UK public independent body that is supporting democracy, strengthening democracy around the world. And Gambia is one of its newest offices. Since 2018 to the moment, we've been basically working inside the National Assembly, not with the members, but primarily with the Office of the Clerk, helping to build capacity of the staffs, the institutions, the structures inside the National Assembly. And so this event today forms part of that process, which is has objectives, one of which, as the Honorable Clerk highlighted, to bring the National Assembly to the people and the people to the National Assembly. After all, the National Assembly is the people's house. National Assembly members are the people's representatives. And so there can be democracy, good governance without an effective, strong National Assembly, and particularly one that is in tune with the people, not just at election time, but all the time. Members of the public require to know what is the National Assembly, what is its role, what is its position, and so also to follow in the processes in the decisions that are going to come out of the National Assembly, which are far-reaching on the lives of the citizens. So essentially, for WFD, this is an event to further strengthen Gambian democracy. It's an event, an accountability event, where National Assembly render account to the members of the public, but also to an awareness creation event where members of the public get to know really what is the National Assembly. So I'm so glad that they have brought in the Gambia's premier historian, Mr. Hassan Sise, to talk about the history of the National Assembly. And certainly in terms of the role, the significance, I'm glad that we have Honorable Halifa Sallah, well knowledgeable to share with us the values, the history, the issues surrounding the National Assembly from a historical, from a political, legal perspective. So on behalf of WFD, for me, just to express our thanks and appreciation to the Office of the Clerk, I must say, for the past 2 to 3 years that we've been here, we've received immense cooperation and collaboration from the Office of the Clerk and all members of staff, to the point that I feel myself as a member of staff of this noble institution. So I want to express that appreciation to the Clerk, and certainly to the Speaker, to all members of National Assembly for the warm welcome that the Westminster Foundation for Democracy receives, continue to receive in this House. So on that note, I look forward to very interesting conversations, and surely I hope to get well informed as an expectation out of this event. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Honourables, National Assembly members, staff, representatives from the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, invited role in ensuring checks and balances are present for government to fulfil its obligations. As representatives of the people, the National Assembly should not be out of reach. Elected members should be able to regularly dock in with the constituents they represent and the general public at large on issues they work on in this Assembly. This open day, which is intended to be an annual event at the beginning of every legislative year to showcase the work and contributions of the Assembly, thank you, could not have come at a better time. The Gambia's democracy is evolving at pace, and is important for stakeholders, including central and local government, development partners, media, civil society, private sector, and most importantly, Gambians, to understand the functions of the National Assembly. This will increase their levels of engagement with the Assembly for the greater good of this country. I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate the Communications Unit under the Office of the Clerk for organising this open day. The British High Commission looks forward to continue working with the National Assembly and all of the stakeholders to strengthen the institutions and help consolidate all the positive and progressive gains registered in the Gambia so far. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. What I will now do is to allow the very head of the institution. I'm sure some of you will be wondering, where is the speaker? Because the speaker is supposed to give a statement. But this is the National Assembly, charged with responsibilities that are sometimes way over our soldiers. And the Right Honorable Speaker, very much delighted to be associated with this day, supported this process all throughout to ensure that everything works according to plan, and provided even the very tips and tricks to ensure that the general public is excited about today whenever they are in the National Assembly. Unfortunately, duty calls, unforeseen circumstances made her unavoidably absent. But we have the Right Honorable Majority Leader who steps in her shoe perfectly and very well. And today it gives us great pleasure to invite the Honorable Majority Leader to deliver a statement on behalf of the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Mariam Jack Denton, who is unavoidably absent. Honorable.
Thank you very much, moderator. On behalf of the Speaker of the National Assembly, I want to take this opportunity to welcome all our invited guests to this maiden occasion at the National Assembly, which is making history, and the legacy is going to continue. And we want to thank the WFD for this initiative, and I am sure it was borrowed from the civil society organization, the consortium of NGOs, which organized NGO Week in 2012 to showcase the work of the civil society organizations in this country. And Madi and myself were part of that process, and he had extended that to the National Assembly, which is the House of Legislature and also the representatives who are working towards ensuring that good governance exists in this country. And this is an opportunity for all of us as citizens of this country, as representatives of the people, to have our doyen and also other representatives of the National Assembly to be here. So this is a great opportunity for us. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Honorable Speaker, Your Excellency, the British High Commissioner, representative of the British High Commissioner to the Republic of the Gambia, honorable members of the National Assembly, honorable minority leader, honorable members and representatives of the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, clerk and staff of the National Assembly, our distinguished speakers, distinguished invited guests, students, the press, and all protocols respectively and duly observed. Good morning, distinguished participants and invited guests. It is my honor and privilege to preside over the National Assembly Open Day in the annals of our history. I am indeed grateful that our stakeholders have responded to our call to grace this important occasion with us. As Speaker of the 5th Legislature, my goal has always been to ensure continuing prospect for the National Assembly by acting fairly and in the interest of all Gambians. Honorable distinguished guests, it has been a great honor building on the work of previous honorable members to have held in this House office, all of whom have contributed to parliamentary democracy through their stewardship and also to the House. I remain committed to providing all members with the opportunity to be heard on behalf of their representatives, constituencies, and also ensure members' contributions in the House are of high possible standard. Distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, this maiden day open day, which I henceforth will be institutionalized to become an annual event, is testimony of our commitment to effective citizen engagement, whereby citizens are actively involved where they live, including the remote and isolated areas, on their terms, and of course on issues which are the most of concern to them and in the language that makes sense to them. The goal of this day is to bring the National Assembly to the people and vice versa, hence create the necessary connection and build strong relationships with partners and stakeholders. It is intended that the making of this day will serve to raise favorable public perception and also enhance public participation and involvement in the work of legislature. With greater public participation and involvement, the work and role of the National Assembly and National Assembly members will be better understood and appreciated, hence overcome some of the challenges faced by legislature, thereby facilitating their roles in representation, law, and decision-making, oversight, and accountability. Distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I therefore wish to commend the leadership of the National Assembly for such an initiative and the Westminster Foundation for Democracy to support our approach to further engagements with the people. The National Assembly Open Day presents an opportunity for the people of the Gambia to know more about their legislature, how it has evolved, the leaders who guided our country before, during, and after independence, and develop their own conceptions and interpretations of parliamentary democracy and its principles. Most importantly, they will also work how they can engage with their expected representatives and meaningfully contribute to democratic processes. The fifth legislature, of course, in the last 5 years done a great deal of improve its reach and accessibility through the internet, public education, outreach activities. We all know, however, that too often, here like everywhere, citizens who are engaged with the legislature remain a small group, not always representative of society as a whole, and likely to be older, more educated in a higher socio-economic group and male. Therefore remains a large group of citizens whose parliaments all around the world does not talk to and who are not aware of how parliament works and how it relates to their daily lives. We took this opportunity to bring this dynamic in order to leave no one behind. The ultimate objective of the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, I am optimistic that the people will take advantage of the open day to engage the services staff and learn the appropriate important places of the National Assembly in the Gambia and how it influences and impacts the life of everyone. I wish all of you a successful event. I thank you all for your presence.
Thank you very much, Honorable Majority Leader. Can we give him another round of applause? I think we are fortunate to be part of those writing the history today. We call it an open day for a reason. We want our stakeholders, are you from the civil society? Are you an ordinary citizen? Are you from the central government? Are you from the local government? Are you a development partner? We want to dialogue. We want what were the trials? What were the tribulations? Where was the legislature before here? Why did it leave where it was? Why are we seated at the entrance of Banjo? We have no better person to answer these questions than our very veteran, history veteran. He is no other than the executive director of the National Center for Arts and Culture and a very good friend to the National Assembly. It is with great pleasure that I invite Mr. Hassan Sise to take us through the history and politics of representation in the Gambia.
Honorable members of the National Assembly here present, the clerk of the National Assembly, the deputy clerks, director, table office, country representative of the WFD, senior staff of the National Assembly, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I feel honored to be invited to give this statement on the history of the Gambian legislature. I wish to begin by saying that the Gambia has, as we speak, a rich legislative history of exactly 180 years, because it was in 1843 that the first legislative body, called the Gambia Legislative Council, was created, comprising the governor at Government House, the chief judge, and justice of the peace, JP. Few years later, the collector of customs, the colonial surgeon, now we call them director of medical services, and the colonial engineer were added to the Legislative Council. You can see that the members were all British colonial officials, meaning they were men who were civil servants working directly under the British governor in Pdois. To add to that, the governor was himself chairman of the council. In 1866, suddenly, the British decided to dissolve the Legislative Council and decided to annex the colony of the Gambia to Sierra Leone. The governor in Pdois was downgraded to the position of administrator, and all legislative and executive decisions were taken from Freetown and then imposed on the Gambia colony. This lack of direct legislative oversight was to cost us dearly, because a few years later, in 1869, when a cholera epidemic hit the Gambia and wiped out 55% of the population of Pdois and Georgetown, simply because the administrator, Colonel Darcy, said that he will not spend money to save lives as long as the Legislative Council in faraway Freetown, 13 days by boat, did not give him the spending power. In 1887, this foolish arrangement was ended and rescinded, and the Gambia Legislative Council was brought back and enlarged to 9 members, 5 officials, and 4 unofficials, according to the legislative historian and my former boss, Brahma K. Sanyang. Of the 4 unofficials, meaning those members who did not work in government, 2 were Africans, Mr. James Top, TOPP, and Mr. Samuel Foster. These were the first Gambian legislators. Both were Christian. In 1922, the Muslim elders of Pdois made a deputation to the governor that there should be a Muslim representative in the Legislative Council. So you can see that as far back as 100 years ago, Gambians were asking for diversity in the law-making institution. Governor Cameroon accepted, and Alhaji Osman Jeng, an educated trader, was nominated by the governor to become the first Muslim legislator. His boss was Mr. Sam Jones, a wealthy Anglican trader, but Mr. Jones was good enough to always give him leave to do his legislative duties. In 1932, Alhaji Osman ended his 2-year terms and was replaced by Alhaji Sheikh Omar Faye, another trader. In 1947, a new constitution brought to an end 100 years of representation by nomination, because in that year, the constitution introduced the elective element. Edward Francis Small, a strident anti-colonial journalist and trade union leader, became the first elected Gambian to the Legislative Council. In 1951, a new constitution was promulgated which legalized political parties, increased the number of elected members of the Legislative Council to 2. Reverend J.C. Faye and I.M. Gabajomba were elected. In 1954, the elective element in the Legislative Council was increased to 4. And in 1960, universal adult suffrage was introduced, and the Gambian legislature increased to 19 members. Names. From 1843 to 1960, our legislature was called the Legislative Council, or simply Council. From 1960 to 1972, it was called the House of Representatives. From 1972 to 1994, it was called Parliament. Since 1997, it has been called National Assembly. Committees. Due to the small size of the Gambian legislature at the beginning, there were no committees until 1954, when a Budget and Allocations Committee was created and headed by Mr. Henry Madi, the MP for Bakau. Site. The early legislature sat at the Governor's Conference Room at Government House. From 1954 to 1972, our MPs sat at the Pdois Club, now the National Museum building. From 1972 to 2014, our legislature sat at the old Parliament House, and in late 2014, it moved to Rekpai Lane with improved facilities. Presidential addresses. The first foreign head of state to address the Gambian legislature was President Leopold Sedar Senghor of Senegal in 1967. The following year, President Mukhtar Uldada of Mauritania did so, and several other presidents have done so in the First and Second Republics. Sessions. Until 1972 elections, sessions for our legislative body was very short. Business was little and far in between. In 1966, for example, the House of Representatives sat for only a total of 11 days. And that is why in those days, our MPs did not get salaries. Clerk, the position of clerk. The position of clerk of the House was established in 1914 when Governor Cameroon nominated his own ADC and private secretary, Captain Watts, as clerk of Legislative Council. Speaker, from 1843 to 1954, the governor combined legislative and executive functions, as he was also president of the Legislative Council. In the 1954 Constitution, the position of Speaker was created, and it was filled by Sir John Mahoney, the first Speaker. From 1962 to 1972, Sir Ali Jack was Speaker, and again from 1977 to 1983, making him the longest-serving Speaker. Lower House. During the discussions for the 1960 Constitution, there was talk of having a lower house of parliament composed of district chiefs. But the PPP, who were in opposition then, was against this. To strike a compromise, the chiefs were given instead 8 seats in the House of Representatives. From 1947 to 1994, chiefs sat in our legislature to represent the interests of their kind. Prorogue. In its 180 years history, no Gambian legislature has ever been prorogued. Filibuster. In the late 1960s, young MPs like MC Cham of the UP used to try to delay decisions on bills by prolonging the debates, especially the second readings. The opposition was tiny on the ground, and filibuster was used to stall the powerful PPP machine in Parliament. Majority Leader. The first majority leader was Sadauda Kereba Jawara in 1962. Minority Leader. The first minority leader was Honorable P.S. Njai, 1962. Great debates. In the past 200 years, our legislature debated the 1965 Independence Bill, which gave us independence, debated the 1970 Republican Bill, and of course, in 1981, passed the Senegambia Confederation Agreement, among other great moments in the history of this august body. Truncated legislatures. The 1951, 1960, and 1962 legislatures did not complete their 5-year mandate, so they were truncated. Elongated legislatures. The 1954 and the 1966 legislatures had elongated mandates, meaning they serve more than 5 years. Absenteeism clause. In 1972, the opposition leader, Honorable P.S. Njai, lost his Banjul North seat as he was absent from Parliament for 3 consecutive sessions without Speaker's permission. This was the first time an elected member of the House lost his post for being absent without Speaker's permission. In the 1980s, the PPP used this a lot of times, for example, to make Buba Balde give way to Omar Sy in Basse. Nominations. The 1965 Constitution empowered the Prime Minister to nominate 3 members to join the elected members of the legislature. In 1968, the PPP government increased this number from 3 to 5. The reason they gave was because they wanted to give women more seats in Parliament. And truly, in November of 1968, Ms. Lucretia St. Clair Diouf, a nurse, became the first woman MP. The other nominated member was from the Chamber of Commerce to represent investment and big business. Finally, Mr. MC, certain things have remained in the legislative history of this country. The qualification for MPs has not changed since 1960s. The nomination clause also remains. The state opening of Parliament by the Chief Executive has also being a constant, and also the use of English language as the language of Parliament. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hasum, and that was a comprehensive historical dossier. Are you not satisfied with what Hasum just revealed to us? Can we give him a louder round of applause? So for most of us, the young ones, the National Assembly did not start today. I've been hearing since in the 18th centuries. So thank you very much once again, Mr. Hasum, for putting us through. And I think this will be a great lesson for some of our students who are studying governance and government and related subjects. It now gives me the pleasure to invite a young Gambian poet, Mr. Chornogay, to break the ice and entice us as to the power of the word. Mr. Gay, you're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Members of the high table, of course, students, diplomats, National Assembly members, and everybody present here today. My name is Chornogay, and I'm happy to be here. I think, though, a day like this is something we should have had more often. I would have suggested this is something that every National Assembly member should go back to their constituencies and do, because since you're representing the people, it only makes sense that once in a while you go to them and tell them what it is you're doing and the responsibilities that they entrust with you, how you are discharging those. And then you can discuss on expectations and what you could do more. Because the only reason this house is here is because of representation. And National Assembly members are not appointed, they're elected. You run through the constituency asking for people to vote for you. So when they give you that power, it is your responsibility to return it to them. And the best way you can do that is sit with them and understand, make them understand what role you play. And then they can talk to you about the problems they want you to solve and the things they want you to discuss and the sides they want you to take when debates happen on issues within the National Assembly. So this is something I don't think we should just do here, Uncle Madi. I think this is something that